This next video is of a double-blind trail, approximately a half a mile long, that features a high find in a significant location that has a dramatic effect on the last fifth of the overall trail, so much so that it extends the time from what started as about 10-minute to 12-minute trail and makes it last over an hour long, with significant trouble for the dog and also the handlers along the way. Please keep a good eye on exactly what goes on here, in particular the map at the end of this video. Up to the point of this proximity alert, the first proximity alert, the trail had almost been literally footstep for footstep, and we were moving very, very quickly at a clip of anywhere from about 5 to 7 miles per hour. The first proximity alerts were where things began to slow down a little bit, and we began to see some major changes in the dog's body language. In the second alert, we actually got stuck in a small scent pool for a couple minutes and had a good belief that the proximity alert may be even possibly emanating from the house to the left and to the rear of the proximity alert. However, once we broke out of that area and picked up the trail again through the large trees and brush, we got into a relatively open area of the tidal flats, and this is where things started to go a little awry. As you can see, the red trail is the trail layers trail, the yellow is ours. The first strong scent pool was on the left-hand side, and the right side was even worse. We sat here for almost 35 to 40 minutes working back and forth in the area. In this location, Dare's showing significant proximity alerts and air scent, keeping her head quite high, and it's almost as if the person's located in the brush and the trees directly behind the handler here. She just does not want to leave this spot. At the time, we didn't know it was a high find. We weren't too sure. There wasn't anything significantly high for us to target, primarily due to the distance that we were looking at. We were keeping an eye in our general area, not looking too far out. In this case, the proximity alert and the associated air scent is coming from over 264 yards away to where the dog is right now. This is all being filmed with a long lens zoom on the video camera. Part of the problem with this situation is the wind is actually at the handler's back, now at his left shoulder, and going from left to right on the screen. So any proximity alert we're thinking is probably coming from behind the handler to the left of the handler. Unbeknownst to us, the wind is going from left to right and then swirling significantly here at a higher thermal level than at ground level. This area where we're at here is Scent Pool 3 area. We spent quite a bit of time here and actually had to give the dog a break because it was extremely hot and humid. We had to get into the shade, give her a little bit of water, and then try to restart. The good thing was there's so much odor there that she had no other choice but to be in it when we started again. This next location is Scent Pool 4. The next clip of the video will show her reaction to this location. She would pick up the trail for a short distance, very, very short distance, and then suddenly react to the swirling, fresh wind odor that was landing in this particular location. You'll see it. You'll see her pick up the trail and then peel off into some fresh odor. One of the key points to remember when you're looking at this video and you're thinking about air scent and how it relates to the dog is continue to think of the trail air being significantly higher than ground level. In this case, the wind patterns are not exactly the same, and where that fresh wind blows may not necessarily be directly in line with the dog or with the wind patterns at ground level. Many people looking at this would think that the dog is distracted or not working at all, completely misinterpreting the dog's body language. It's important to understand that this type of reaction or this type of misunderstanding could lead the handler to lose the trail and actually lose the subject when they're right under their nose, right in the first place. I wrote significantly about high finds in chapter 15 of my book, Canine Trailing, The Straightest Path, Alpine Publications. Not only do I talk about some step-by-step programs to deal with the problem, but I also talk about real case histories that influenced my training specifically for this issue. I highly recommend this book, and I think that anybody working high finds in real cases we'll find that it can be quite a help.
Yeah, you're on it now, bud. Don't run too hard, though. Take your time with it. I don't want her to overshoot something. Okay. Yep.
Pauses, as you're going to see here, where she literally plants her nose in inches along. Once we inspected this, this was the exact footprints of the trail there crossing this particular section. What was interesting here is she was trying to detail as best she could, but then would get thrown back into the morass of wind-blown odor that was scattering to the left and to the right. What's significant about this is why high finds can sometimes be the absolute last scent you'll ever have. When you have a dog that reacts this heavily to that wind-blown odor all over the top of the trail, it's extremely difficult for the dog to abandon that fresh wind-blown odor that's coming to them for an older trail that's beneath that fresh wind-blown odor. It takes a long time for her to figure this out, and the simple fact that it was a double-blind trail made all the difference in the world. We couldn't influence anything she did. The only thing we could do is literally react, and hopefully she would do the right thing. We did assist a little bit when it came to giving her some breaks and making sure she was fully watered before starting again, but that was the extent of our assistance. This next screenshot is probably the most significant because it exemplifies the sheer extent of scent pool reaction and fresh human odor coming from the source, the distance that it goes and the breadth that it goes. You can actually see a semblance of a scent cone coming from the source, going from the right of the screen all the way to the left of the screen. This is about 234 yards long and roughly 80 yards wide. What's interesting about this is that the wind was going from left to right, directly behind us at ground level. Yet this scent cone resembles something as if the wind would be coming right from the source left to the dog. I think it gives you a good idea of an example of how thermals can work during the middle of the day in big open spaces, especially when you have barriers such as the trees in the bottom left, to the right, and then to the top right of the screen. This big open area ends up being a location where the scent just swirls left to right, up and down in many, many different directions. When the dog encounters these fresh odors on top of a trail, it has no other choice but to react to those fresh odors. It doesn't want to go back to the older scent that's on the ground when it has fresh scent that's blowing and moving in different directions. This is exactly why a high find like this and proximity scents related to it can literally be the last scent your dog ever has, and you can almost be directly underneath the person that you're looking for and never know it. Take good care when you're working these types of situations, and I highly recommend that you set them up double blind so you can learn how to work them and trust your dog without influencing them. Generally speaking, where the problems lie are impatient handlers that want to push their dogs to pick up an exact trail and find the source, and not recognizing that the dog is working an air scent problem and dealing with fresh proximity scent. Utmost patience is paramount in these cases. You have to take your time with your dog and let them work this very, very slowly and at their own pace.